Hi guys, welcome back to another Genshin Impact build video. Today I want to talk about weapons. Specifically, the weapons that you're going to be using for Yoimiya and Sayu. Which ones will work the best with their abilities and in the best way possible. We've got a lot to go over today, so without further ado, let's dive in. Yoimiya will be here in just a couple days. I think it's best we talk about what weapons to use for her. A lot of people have talked about artifacts and good ways to build Yoimiya, but none that I have seen have really touched on weapons that are best for her, and which, I think, are the main part of your damage in the first place. Yoimiya is another character who's special because she's really centered around her normal attack and pyro damage. With that in mind, there's a couple weapons that I think will probably be good for her. Looking at her abilities and her stats, you can see that she is really centered around her normal attack string. This means the Hamayumi is unique because it increases your normal charge attack damage by 16% and the charge attack damage by 12%. When the equipping character's elemental burst gauge is at 100%, this effect increases by 100%. Now, you're going to have to play around with her elemental burst by gauging when you should use it and when you shouldn't, but when the elemental burst gauge is full, it gives 100% boost in its original ability. Now, if you do the math, that's 16% plus 100%. That is a 32% increase in normal attack damage and 24% increase in charge attack damage, and that's only Refinement 1. With Refinement 5 and your elemental burst gauge at max, that's a 64% increase in your normal attack damage. That is insane! And that's not all. There's also a 48% charge attack damage increase. Honestly, I feel that's a big payoff, and that's the boat I'm going with. Yoimiya's elemental skill converts her normal attack damage into pyro damage. This boosts her normal attack damage exponentially. Because of this, she is able to deal a lot of damage with her normal attack string, so this weapon is able to boost that ability and make her a really strong DPS. But if you do not have the Hamayumi, there are also a lot of other bows you can use and choose from. I'm only going to go over 2, but if you would like for me to go over others in another video, comment down below. The rest is really good because of Refinement 1, it can almost do exactly what the Hamayumi can do. But the drawback to this bow is that it can only be obtained in the gacha. But if you do have it, it is still a really good weapon to use on Yoimiya. Moving on to its ability. So this bow has the ability called Rapid Fire. This ability increases your normal attack damage by 40%, but it does decrease your charge attack damage by 10%. But if you get this baby to Refinement 5, you may be losing some charge attack damage, but you will still be getting an increase in normal attack damage by 80%. But most people do not have that many or have gotten the thing to Refinement 5 in the first place. But I do think it's still a really good weapon, and when used in tangent with her elemental skill, can boost her damage by an exponential amount. There are also a lot of other bows she could use, like the Prototype Crescent, which can increase your attack if you hit an opponent's weak point, and a Blackcliff bow and its crit damage subset, as well as after defeating an enemy, your attack is increased by 12%, and that can stack up to 3 times. So moving on to Sayu's weapons, there's a couple out there, but I think I'm only going to go over like 3 in this video. But again, if you'd like me to go over more, comment down below which ones you would like me to talk about. Alright, now let's get into her weapons. So before we talk about the obvious claymore that most people are going to say to use, or what you should be using, we should talk about some other ones that will probably be just as good or maybe even better that you should use for her. And on that note, we will talk about our first weapon, the Rain Slasher. And I already know what you think. Are you insane? Like, bruh. But I assure you, I looked over this many times. The Rain Slasher. Well, that comes down to Sayu's passive. Someone more capable. This passive allows Sayu to heal nearby allies by 300 HP every time she triggers a swirl reaction. That part is good, yes, but she will also heal an additional 1.2 HP for every point of elemental mastery she has. Though, this can only be activated every 2 seconds, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. While doing the math, you can see that 200 elemental mastery, she will heal an additional 200 HP, and she can swirl quite often. So that's a lot of HP that's going to be healed. As you may or may not know, the Rain Slash has Elemental Mastery as a substat, and at level 90 it caps at 165 additional Elemental Mastery. Not only that, but its special ability increases damage against opponents affected by Hydro or Electro by 20%. At Refinement 5, it's 36%. So a little bit more damage if you're going for a Hydro or Electro Swirls. I believe that it can still be, a really good Claymore for you to use if you really want to take her healing capabilities and boost them. Another Claymore that I think will be good for Sayu that you're probably familiar with is the Archaic Petra. This weapon can not only be good if you're trying to build a DPS Sayu, but can also boost her healing. This is because Sayu's Elemental Burst healing scales off her attack. The higher her attack, the more her Pandadaruma heals. This can also allow her burst to hit harder and allow her normal attacks to deal some decent damage as well. If you go with this weapon though, keep in mind that Sayu does have a high elemental burst cost, meaning if you're going to do this, you might want to have energy recharge somewhere in your build, or you won't be bursting often. Last one for this video. We will finally be covering the most popular weapon for Sayu, the Nagemasa. This Claymore has the energy recharge substat, obviously, which can assist in allowing her to use her elemental burst consistently. Because of this, and its skill, I will elaborate on later, is why most people and I will be using the Nagemasa on Sayu. This Claymore increases its user's elemental skill damage by 6%. After the elemental skill hits an opponent, the character loses 3 energy, but they will regenerate 3 energy every 2 seconds for 6 seconds. So you may be losing energy, but you'll be gaining that, more energy in the long run. So at Refinement 2 or higher is when it gets interesting. That is because it will be increasing your elemental skill damage by 12%. After it hits the opponent, you'll lose 3 energy as before, but you will end up regenerating 5 energy every 2 seconds for the next 6 seconds. Though this can only happen every 10 seconds, but that just means a 4-second cooldown. So this being Refinement 5. I feel like this is a good free-to-play Claymore worth investing in because its ability as well as the energy recharge, Sayu's elemental skill will be dealing a lot more damage and she'll be using her elemental burst a lot more often. So overall, boosting her damage and her healing consistency by a huge amount. Alright, so at the end of the day, all of these are really good weapons for Yoimiya and Sayu. As long as you get your hand on one of them, I'm sure you can have an amazing and powerful unit that can help assist your team with dealing more damage and supporting them by healing and assisting them in dealing damage. Alright guys, that's all for this video. If you liked it and want to see more, don't forget to splash that like button and subscribe for more gaming content. Comment down below what weapon you'll be using for Sayu or Yoimiya. And as always, thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Later.